panel, which I believe you guys saw one of recently. So that's our weekly thing. For me, I actually went to university for graphic design and digital media arts with a focus in interactive authoring as well. So definitely kind of know where you guys are coming from for sure. And through a series of events, I ended up very heavily involved in the Magento community, which is open source e-commerce software. And from there, I got connected with their community manager, which is actually how I ended up in community management, because she saw traces of it there and really wanted to mentor me into that role. So that's kind of the short story, really, I guess, on how I went from graphic design and digital media to community, and now I'm able to really use the two together to direct. Our product is actually a community product, so they're very much hand in hand, the community and the user experience, graphic design, all of that for us.
No, that's fantastic. So the bringing together of those graphic design user experience paradigms that you guys have done, is that something that you found a lot of companies are doing? Is it something that people are just learning to do? How did that come about, and when did that come about from your point of view?
I don't know that it's new, to be honest. I think that it's kind of a thing that's been around for a while to have test groups and focus groups and whatnot, but to approach it from a community perspective is maybe a little bit newer, just from the presence of social media making it that much easier, where you can send out a message and be like, hey, we're thinking about this feature, what are your thoughts? And being able to really utilize your community as a focus group is pretty helpful from that perspective. And then when you look at community as a product, which is the case in some companies like ours, then they're absolutely like totally intertwined together, or they should be. If your design team doesn't really know what your community team is trying to accomplish, they're really just going to butt heads and be annoyed that certain features aren't available that they need, or like this feature just doesn't make sense. It's just very much something where that user experience kind of bridges the gap and ties them together.
Great. So if we were interested in designing products and we're interested in trying to make sure that we keep the community manager at front of mind as we're designing products, what kinds of things would we want to be taking into consideration when we consider the community manager as a user rather than just as the end user? Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
So really what you're looking at is how that community manager interacts with their community. If you're talking about like an actual forum or platform or aspect of your site, really you want to stay connected with that community manager, because they're going to know exactly how people are trying to use it. The quickest way we find out something isn't working on our site is usually an email from a community member being like, hey, this thing, it's not working the way it should be, or why did you do it this way? And so they do have that connection, which is really great. But then also there's tools that they need to make sure that their community can really thrive. For example, notifications are really huge for us because it keeps community members coming back. The ease of being able to sign in with social networks or just their email is really important for us, because any barrier to entry there really makes it harder for people to sign up, and then it might be too much effort for them. Whereas we really want them to be able just to sign up right when they're first reading something and to be able to comment on it. So for us, that's pretty huge. As well as, depending on the community, a lot of times anonymity is desired, especially for us. We're working in a health condition space. And so to have that ability to log in with Facebook for ease of use, but then still be able to use whatever username you want, so you can kind of keep that level of concealment there.
That's great, and so that's kind of also an emerging issue, is that notion of trying to maintain a little bit of anonymity. We talked a little bit about that, about how Ella's been able to kind of develop in that space and emerge as a unique, I guess, or attempting to fill a niche market. Do you think that that's going to only increase over time, or how, as future builders of the web, should these folks be orienting themselves in terms of how much integration, social integration, they push into things that they might be interested in building in the future?
Yeah, it depends on the space you're in. Because some spaces people really want to be known as thought leaders, and then their name really matters in making that impact. But other times, I don't know if you followed the whole issue that surrounded Huffington Post going from their own proprietary system to Facebook comments. They talked a whole lot about whether or not anonymity decreases aggressiveness, I guess, in comments, and their theory was that it did. And so what they did was they forced people to actually use their real names through a verified Facebook account to comment before switching to just Facebook comments itself. And that was how they chose to treat that. The cool thing is you can still integrate Facebook, their login tool, using there's a new like anonymous layer. So you can log in as anonymous with Facebook. Obviously, Facebook still knows who you are and whatnot, but the other end users will not see that, and so you're able to kind of keep your identity a secret that way, which is pretty cool technology to link into because you're verifying that it's a real person, but at the same time letting them hide behind whatever username they want to hide behind for whatever reason. Obviously, it's going to depend on the nature of the community if that's the right fit for them.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about understanding the contextual makeup of the people who are a part of your community and how that might influence decisions that you want to make. I'm glad to see that Facebook went down that road for making that anonymous login possible from a technology point of view, because I think it's pretty handy, and it definitely does speak to them answering what's going on in the minds of their users moving forward. So, well. Sherrie doesn't have a whole lot of time with us, but I did want to get her point of view, and I also wanted to give you guys a chance to ask her some questions. It's about 1:44, and I would like to be able to let you go at about 10 till 2, if that's okay with you, Sherrie.
Yeah, whatever works for you is fine. I have about a 2-minute trip to my meeting room, so.
Good, that's awesome. So you guys have an opportunity to pick her brain a little bit. So I would like to have you guys maybe ask her a couple questions. It can be about the context that we're talking about in terms of community management, or just in terms of career development. Maybe ask her a question about how she parlayed her school experience into a job, those kinds of things. We're heading into a career fair today, so we've got some other career-oriented discussions going on, so I'm always happy to talk about that kind of thing. What kind of questions can you guys offer for her today while we've got her here with us for a few minutes? I'll step back and let's see, I still have an echo, so speak loudly into that microphone.
All right. So,
introduce yourself. I'm sorry. Say who you are.
My name's Manuel. That's
and your major and stuff.
Senior in ISM here.
That's interactive in social media.
Okay.
So you said that you started off as you got started in content management or community management by being active. And then I remember in the video last night that we watched the recording of your last Hangouts, some guy was talking about how he actively looked for people in the community to serve as like the go-between, so he didn't have to like be hands-on. Is that kind of what happened with you?
You're always going to want to build those brand advocates. And it's funny because as I learned more about community management, I definitely saw those techniques being put in place. It was funny because while I thought about cross-building friendship, which I was, later I learned that it was actually a community manager trying to build more of a brand advocate. So yeah.
I have a question. I'm Emily, an ISM major, senior. So what has been the most challenging task or goal of your job so far, and how did you meet that goal, or how are you working towards it?
Now you sound like a job interviewer. Honestly, my big challenge right now is learning how to lead a team. It's a huge difference between learning how to manage yourself and your time, and then learning how to encourage other people to do the same, and to really take ownership of what they're working on. So for me, that's the hugest one that I've been working on lately. But looking back, I really thrive on challenge, to be honest. So it's been a lot of fun growing from graphic design and digital media through web design into teaching myself social media. I actually taught myself web design before I went to school for it. Then teaching myself social media and just learning new things as they come out. It's always a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. I think the biggest thing to remember is just to stay on top of all of that, because any area that you're interested in, you're going to very quickly be out of date, unfortunately, in technology. And so you just need to constantly be aware of the new trends. And if there are ones that you're interested in or ones that are in an area you want to grow in, definitely keep learning.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know if this relates very much, but I'm Carl. I'm also an ISM major. I was wondering, I'd like to look through Craigslist to see what kind of freelance work people are looking for in web development. And I've noticed that lately there's a trend instead of just asking for a developer that knows, just CSS and HTML and JavaScript. Most of them require you to be an expert in like WordPress or other content management systems. What do you think the next step will be, like moving past content management systems, or like what will be the next step in freelance work?
I think content management systems are probably here for a while. I'm not entirely sure what the next step will be. I very much have a background in the e-commerce space, as well as working with like Joomla and WordPress. And so e-commerce is pretty huge right now, and it's only going to grow, obviously, as more commerce moves online. To the point really where people are talking about like removing the E and really looking at the omnichannel experience. So I think that's definitely a huge space to keep your eye on for sure. But just watching for those trends, obviously apps are huge because people take their phones with them everywhere. So looking at kind of what the trends are in the app space and how that integrates with sites or whether it doesn't, and really that space is pretty big.
Thank you. That was good. I want to be mindful of your time. Maybe we have time for maybe one last question if somebody else wants to ask a question. Anybody? Now's your chance to do it. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you joining us.
No problem. If anyone has other questions, you can always reach out on Twitter or whatnot. I'm pretty accessible.
That's great. And let us know how we can help out with anything that you're doing, whether it's through Community Manager, the Hangout, or whatever else that you've got rolling that you need some signal boosting help on. Just let us know.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers. Have a good day. Good meeting.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.